Check this out, a beautiful Sharp QC54 camera from 1984 recording a lovely and nostalgic video. Today, I'm sharing a review on the DIY steps to modify this camera to use it as a modern one. Do you remember those great days in 1984? Apple introduced the revolutionary Macintosh. Los Angeles was buzzing with the thrill of the Summer Olympics, and a future superstar, Beyoncé, was born. In the midst of all this excitement, the Sharp QC54, a Newvicon camera, quietly made its debut. Though it requires an external VHS recorder, it captures our everyday moments in vibrant color. Today, you can find this nostalgic gem on eBay for just $20 to $50. Join us as we reminisce about this iconic camera and show you how to modify it for modern use in 2024. If you are not familiar with this kind of cameras, I invite you to watch the video about the modification I made to a Magnavox camera, where I explain in more detail how they work. I'll leave the link in the description. Before we dive into the mod, here's a quick review. This camera uses a Newvicon tube sensor, similar to the ones found in all analog TVs, which give it a unique image quality. It has a zoom lens ranging from 10mm to 30mm, and it's all manual focus. It originally connects to an external VHS recorder with a cable, which allows it to record video and get power. To get rid of those old limitations, we're going to modify it. Remember, I'm not an expert, just a hobbyist with some basic electronics knowledge, so be careful if you want to try this mod. These types of cameras can be found very cheaply, so I think it's worth the risk, but the decision is only yours. The idea started when I found the post on this awesome website. Of course, I'll leave the link in the description, that tell us how to make an adapter box to get the video and audio signals out of the camera and create a power input. With this information, it was much easier for me to come up with a way to use the camera in a more portable way. I decided to add a standard 3.5mm AV out port, like those found on many Hi8 or VHS cameras from the 90s, and a 12V power input. This way, I could connect a video capture device, in this case a mini DVR costing around $30 in Amazon, which records video onto a micro SD card, and an external battery from around $15. As you can see, I added a monitor, but it's not necessary to use this camera. If you want to know how to modify it using a super cheap monitor for dash cams, let me know in the comments. And there you have it, a nostalgic camera with modern functionality, and this is how I did it. I cut the cable and unscrewed the casing. Please be super careful, because the cathode ray tube of this camera can give you a very dangerous electric shock, so never touch it. I have already warned you, so I'm not responsible for any injuries, remember. Careful! Now we identify the cables. White is video, brown is audio, red is 12V power, and the one without the plastic cover is ground. This is the connector I'll be using to extract the audio and video. It's a 4-pole connector, which you can find very cheaply at any electronic store, Amazon or AliExpress. I need to solder the cables according to this diagram. And this is how the connector looks once it's prepared. I use a standard cable color for audio, video and ground, but remember, the colors of the camera cables do not correspond to these standard colors. Now, to power the camera with the battery, I'll be using this standard connector, which you can find very cheaply on Amazon. I used the hole where the original camera cable came out to install the connector. I decided to place the audio and video out connector in this part of the camera because I think there's enough space. To do this, I'll make a hole with my small drill. It fits perfect and looks nice and clean. I also wanted to install an on and off switch so I can turn off the camera without having to remove the battery. This spot seemed good to me, so I'll drill a hole and attach the switch with hot glue. Look at that! It looks like it came from the factory. Well, maybe not, but it looks good enough. Now it's time to solder the cables. Let's start with the battery connector. Since I installed a switch, one of the switch's cables will be soldered to the camera's red cable, which is 12 volts, and the remaining switch cable will be soldered to the one of the battery connector's terminal. Then, we just need to solder the ground cable to the other terminal of the battery connector. Remember, ground is the cable without a plastic cover shield. But since the audio and video connector share the same ground, we'll take advantage of this by soldering both the ground cable from the audio and video connector and the ground cable from the battery connector to the same ground cable from the camera. Now we just need to solder the remaining audio and video cables from the connector to the corresponding cables from the camera. Remember, from the camera cables, the white one is video and the brown one is audio. Great! We now have the audio and video output port, the battery connector, and on and off switch. In this case, I'll connect the monitor to make it easier, but remember, this is optional. I have the battery connected, the mini DVR is ready. I'm turning on the switch and... Yes! It works! You cannot imagine how happy I was. I did a small recording test and everything worked well, so it's time to put all together. Here is how the battery port turned out, and here's the video and audio output port. Neat! I kind of regret placing the battery port in that location, which is why in my next project, with a very similar camera, I placed the battery port in a more convenient spot. If you want to know more about this other mysterious camera, let me know in the comments and I'll prepare a video about it. It is time to shoot some footage. Yes, the video quality is pretty poor compared to today's standards, but the vibe these images gives is something else. My friends ask why I go through all this trouble for what they see as low quality footage, but to me, it's super special. It takes me back to my childhood, watching that old TV in my living room. Plus, giving these awesome old cameras a second life makes all the effort totally worth it. I've been using these old cameras to shoot my music videos on my other channel, and honestly, I love how they look. Here's a link for you. Check one of my music videos to see this type of cameras in action. I hope you enjoyed this video. I invite you to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and please help me out with a like and leave a comment to let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.